Welcome back to the Dallas Meetup Dime, where we get straight to the value in 10 minutes or less. I'm your host, Carson Gibbons, and today I'm joined by the Director of Community Impact for WFAA, Mr. Ryan Wood. Ryan, how are you?
Good, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here.
How far away is this from WFAA flagship?
We're just a few blocks, so it took me like 5 minutes to get here, which is great. Don't have to worry about traffic. Don't have to worry about World Cup traffic.
100%.
We're doing pretty good this morning.
It's been a little crazy downtown the last couple of weeks with all the teams staying at Drakestone and the W, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. But so your team sits at WFAA proper then?
Yes, we are right next to the Omni. We've actually been in that building since 1961.
Oh, wow.
Which is a long time. That's where our newsroom was when JFK happened in '63. We were just down the street from Dealey Plaza. A lot has happened that WFA has been witness to just by nature of where we are in downtown.
So take me back earlier in your career. I know I want to get into your community efforts with WFAA and how we kind of came aligned with the Dallas Meetup partnership, but you're an Emmy Award winner. So I would love to know, how'd you get your feet dirty in the news business?
Yeah, I grew up in journalism. I actually remember the exact moment I knew I wanted to be a journalist, and it was in second grade. I grew up in Oklahoma City, so I'm not far from home, but that was in 1995. And the morning of April 19th, 1995, we were in the middle of the Pledge of Allegiance in our second grade class, and the whole building shook. And it was the bombing at the Murrah building downtown.
Oh, wow.
And that night, my parents and I and one of my siblings went and bought supplies for the rescuers because they were still pulling survivors out of the rubble for days.
Mm-hmm.
So that night, we went and got supplies. We drove downtown, and we came down the north side of the building, which is the side of the building that blew up, and it was gone. We dropped off the supplies, and then they had us U-turn, and when we U-turned, we went down the street where all of the news crews were, and it was camera, reporter, satellite truck, camera, reporter, satellite truck, for a whole city block. And I just was fascinated by how they were covering what was happening. They were telling the story of what was happening, and they were getting the information about what was happening before everyone else. And that was the moment where I knew I wanted to become a journalist. And so I went to college for broadcast journalism, got my start in Oklahoma City as a producer. I produced a morning newscast, was there for 4 years, then moved to Dallas, where I produced the morning newscast at WFAA. Worked my way up, became an executive producer for our corporate office, our parent company, where I oversaw breaking news and big event coverage for the whole company. I went to 3 Super Bowls, a World Series, 2 major hurricanes, both political conventions in 2016.
Oh, wow.
Which were dramatically different from each other.
You said 2 hurricanes, so.
Yeah, it's true. And then I moved back and became executive producer of innovation for WFAA, where the goal was really to focus on reshaping what local news looks like. I took that job in December of 2019.
Oh, wow.
And then the pandemic hit. And so everything changed, right? Instead of rebuilding and reformatting and, coming up with new ways to do the news, it was, how are we just going to do the news during the pandemic? And then a few years ago, I was fortunate enough to make the shift into the community work that I do now.
Well, it's funny because your starter story feels like it's both the journalism aspect and the community impact aspect, because you were going down there to help, and then you got enthralled with the actual reporters that were unseen. Going back to that moment, I've had similar moments growing up. I started RTF, switched to journalism, wound up as PR and advertising to actually finish out my major. But that moment that you saw the news crews, Anderson Cooper always used to say something like, it had merit to bear witness to something. Was it the fact that they were, honoring or documenting the event? Was it the fact that they were first ones there and they got to tell everybody else? Like, what was that boyhood twinge that you had?
Yeah, it was the curiosity of it. To be a journalist, you have to be curious. You're constantly asking questions. You're always wanting more information. You're always wanting to know the why behind the why, right? And so it was in that moment where they were documenting history, and there was a curiosity there that was, okay, well, what are they asking to learn about how it happened? What are they saying to the audience at home? How are they relaying the information I'd always loved telling stories as a kid. I always loved reading stories as a kid. So the storytelling aspect of it, combining the curiosity with the communication, was something that was really interesting to me, and that's just what I latched onto.
You talked about switching into this innovation-oriented role in 2019. Can you speak to the 1,000-foot landscape of like local news in major markets and how it has been shifting over the last generation, maybe, and the new efforts that you're diversifying?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of ways to look at that. The first is, if you watch any local newscast, they're all probably going to look the same, right? You're going to have one or two anchors sitting behind a desk, reading off of a camera and a teleprompter, pitching to a meteorologist to do the forecast, and then they're going to talk about sports, right? That same format is what local news has been built on for decades, right? The challenge is the audience is evolving, right? Back in the day, we had newspapers. We went from newspapers to TV. Then we went from TV to like internet, YouTube, right? Then we had social media. And so all of that evolution is happening from an audience perspective, but the evolution has not been happening as quickly in actual media and broadcasting, right? So when we think about innovation, WFA is not alone. All media companies are looking at ways to better reach their audience. And sometimes that means, breaking your prized possession, i.e. your 10 o'clock newscast, and figuring out, how do we make this more relevant to our audience, and how do we reach those audiences where they are now? So a lot of stations are doing more 24/7 streaming. WFAA has a streaming app that's available on your TV. It's free. It's WFA Plus. And that's where you can get WFA content 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So while historically, you might only watch the TV at 5, 6, or 10 o'clock because that's when the local news is happening, now you can get local news on your TV, on your smartphone, on your desktop computer, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, beyond just our regular website.
Well, and they can really cover the stories, it feels like, that are pressing. Like what I've noticed sometimes is the main channel, not WFA, I'm speaking about another channel when I say this, but it's like they have to go to sports and weather, and meanwhile the local streaming component can actually focus on the real story that everyone's talking about that day, like all day.
Well, and we do that at WFAA.
Really?
It was not but a few weeks ago we were doing gavel-to-gavel trial coverage of a high-profile trial in Tarrant County.
That was the story I was referencing, actually.
And so we're able, now that we have multiple channels, right? Historically, we've only had Channel 8. But now we have our website, we have our YouTube, we have our Instagram, we have our Facebook, we have our mobile app, we have WFA Plus streaming. We have a lot of new avenues to be able to provide additional content to audiences that might want that versus traditional, but still be able to serve the traditional audience.
You may or may not know this off the top of your head, but take away WFA Plus. What social platform is the most productive for you in terms of views and syndicating the segments after the fact?
It's YouTube.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
I find myself going, because they have that news section now when you scroll through, and so I'll subscribe to WFAA, and oftentimes it's DVR'd on my, Roku or whatever, but I'll actually be ingesting it on YouTube because it's the segment. Yeah. I want that particular segment. That's what I'm interested in.
And when you think about YouTube as a search engine, people are going to YouTube to find the specific content that they are interested in. And so to be able to optimize our segments and our videos on that platform to help reach new audiences that may not even be in Dallas is something that local news as a whole has really been embracing. And I would say has been late to the game on, like most things in our evolution. But it's something that we're really digging into to help take advantage of what's out there.
Last question, and then I promise we'll move on from me nerding out on the news.
It's okay.
Can you tell what percentage of digital traffic is actually outside of the metro?
Yes.
Is it a significant split?
I haven't looked at that number recently, but I think the majority of our traffic is still going to be local, right? Local media for a local audience is still the most trusted source of news and information, right? And so even on a YouTube where it's open to everybody around the country or around the world, those stories are still mostly relevant to the local audience. Now, you're going to have a story every now and then, right, that is just mass appeal or something super interesting about it has gotten people's attention. It started to go viral online because of a headline, or something else.
We're the host city to a worldwide sporting situation.
A perfect example is the England soccer fans at the Londoner.
Yes.
Right? Perfect example of that's a local story, but that has international appeal and interest. And so a lot of people are curious about all of the excitement and energy around England, and they're taking over of that pub in Dallas.
It's been exciting to see some of these pubs get rescued by England and Croatia. But Director of Community Impact, what do you do now specifically? How do you partner with the community? How can we help?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. At a 30,000 foot view, right? My role as Director of Community Impact is to make sure that WFAA is using our platform to make North Texas a better place to live, right? Pure and simple. Our journalists do an incredible job covering the news and the journalism that's happening in North Texas. Our sales team does an incredible job offering business solutions in the form of advertising to local and national businesses. My job is to make sure, all right, we have an audience of 8 million people in DFW. What are we doing with that platform to help make people's lives better? Whether that is through partnering with DallasMeetup to create new opportunities for business connections and business growth, or working with a nonprofit to help elevate their cause and awareness, or to do a philanthropic campaign like our annual holiday toy drive, Santa's Helpers, where we provide 60,000 toys to kids across Dallas and Fort Worth.
How can we get involved and help very pragmatically? Is there a link we can go to or an email that we can send?
Absolutely. So first, we love to partner with businesses to help uplift nonprofits. And we do that in the form of building sponsorship packages, okay? So for example, with Santa's Helpers, we have 4 sponsorships that are available. Those 4 sponsors have been around for years and years and years. But it's a good example of what can happen when we partner with a business to help make a significant impact. Those businesses pay for the sponsorship. They get a host of benefits as a sponsor, but in exchange, we get additional dollars to be able to buy more toys to increase the number of kids who are going to have a toy during the holidays. So there's the sponsorship aspect, and we get really creative. Like if a business is saying, gosh, you know what, I really would love to get in this part of the community, we can work with you to figure out the best way to do that and how we can support not only the business as the partner, but also to increase the impact for the beneficiary. That's first. The second is through the nonprofit space. We donate over $1 million of airtime every year to nonprofits through the form of public service announcements. And so if there is a local nonprofit out there that wants to get its message out, let me know. We would love to partner and figure out a way we can help uplift that messaging by donating PSA airtime. And then sort of looping back to the overall question, where can you go? Go to WFA.com, search for the community impact page, and you'll find information about sponsorships and PSAs and you name it. And my email is actually on that website, so people can reach out. And it's very simple. It's rwood@wfaa.com. Please feel free to reach out, and we're happy to have a conversation about how we can work together.
Ryan's probably being modest. I've not come across a single executive director of any of the nonprofits that we're platforming for August 13th at Texas Live that aren't already familiar with you, have likely partnered with you. So a lot of overlapping partnerships there. But Ryan, thank you so much for what you're doing in the community.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Go to DallasMeetup.com to sign up to meet Ryan on August 13th at Texas Live. Thank you.